Which diet is best for your ferret? I'm sure you've noticed a lot of confusion and debate happening in the ferret community these days about what type of diet to feed your ferret. There's a lot of people on one side and then there's a lot of people on the other side. Lots of opinions floating around. Essentially, there are 3 ways that you can feed your ferret, and there are positives and negatives for each type of food that you feed. And also there is kind of like a 4th one, but I'll talk about that at the end. 1. Commercial diets. These generally include dry kibble diets, so with biscuits, and they are mass produced by large companies. Some of these companies care about ferrets and produce very high quality kibble, and then you have others on the other end of the spectrum that really only care about their profits and put foods into these kibbles that are not just questionable anymore, they're just plain out wrong. So if anyone is feeding a low quality kibble to their ferret, you could actually be doing your ferret more harm than good. And I'm sorry to be so frank, but that is just the truth. So it's really important to be able to recognize the difference between a high quality kibble and versus a very, very poor quality kibble. Even the ones that are kind of medium aren't really the best for your ferrets. The high quality kibbles is what you should be aiming for if you choose to feed a commercial ferret diet. The high quality kibbles will keep your potential vet costs lower than the low quality kibbles that will spur the onset of different diseases that ferrets are prone to. So you might think that you're saving money on one end of the spectrum, but as a matter of fact, you're probably going to end up paying more in vet costs than you would on a high quality diet, because there's research linking the type of diet that a ferret is on with different diseases and illnesses that ferrets suffer from. So diet is super important. The second diet, number 2, is the raw food diet. This generally consists of store-bought raw meats and organs and bones and the types of meats that you can buy from the butcher, for example, or at the grocery store like we have in Australia. We have a whole meat section and you can just grab any types of offcuts of meat that you choose to, and if you plan it out properly, then you can feed a raw food diet to your ferret. People who choose to transition their ferrets from a commercial diet probably know the raw food diet best, because this is what everyone seems to be talking about at this stage. With this type of diet, it's important to plan ahead and do your research, because as my vet recently told me, if you don't do this diet right, you'll be doing your ferret more harm than good. You can't just feed the flesh of an animal. You can't just feed your ferret bones. You can't just feed your ferret organs. You need to be able to know what combination to give them in order to make sure that they have a nutritious, healthy diet. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point in even starting them on this. If you do this diet right and research and pre-plan and make sure that you have all the ingredients that you need in order to keep your ferret happy and healthy and nutritionally balanced, their diet nutritionally balanced, then this diet could be healthier than the high quality kibble diets and much better for ferrets. So if done properly, your ferret could experience greater well-being and happiness and be healthier in the long run, which would keep vet costs down. Whole prey diets. Research is starting to show that these types of diets could be the healthiest and most nutritionally balanced diets for ferrets, if done right. However, as is the case with the raw food diet that we just spoke about, research and planning is the key to this diet. A poorly executed raw prey diet could cause problems with the ferret's health and could make them nutritionally imbalanced. Also, it's worth mentioning that with both the raw diet and whole prey diet, it is super important to stick to very strict food handling guidelines, because you're dealing with raw meat and carcasses, where if you don't handle it properly and clean surfaces and store it properly, you yourself and your family could be at risk of different types of food poisoning. So while it is important to acknowledge that the raw food and the whole prey diet might be best for ferrets if done correctly, the decision to transition a ferret onto these types of diet shouldn't be taken lightly. Because if you don't do them correctly and you don't plan out the foods properly and you don't do your research on how to keep your ferret nutritionally balanced, it can cause more harm than good for your ferret. Now, there is also a fourth option, which I didn't mention previously, but I told you that I would come back to it. The fourth option is the mixer. So you could feed your ferret a high quality diet and then supplement that diet with whole raw foods and with whole prey foods. So that's an option as well. And it might be a good starting point before you decide to completely cut your ferret off of a commercial diet and then straight onto a raw or whole prey diet. It's nice to have that little transition period and decide how, and get a feeler for what it might be like. Personally, as a raw food and whole prey diet feeder, I find, for me, there are good points and bad points. One of the good points is that I love to see how much Yuki enjoys her food. I have never seen her be this much of a pig before. She loves crunching on bones, eating feathers, eating fur, eating the internal organs, and just being the predator that she was born to be. She loves it. And she's looking healthier ever since I've switched her to just a raw diet and a whole prey diet. The downside for me personally is that it can be a little bit of a hassle trying to find the right foods and planning out what she's going to be eating and thinking what she ate, what she needs next in order to change her diet up, make sure that she's nutritionally balanced. It's never-ending research. There's, more and more research coming out about this, and you need to be on top of it. There's a lot of work that goes into this type of a diet. And it can be a hassle. If you have warm days, if you have hot days, for example, you can't leave the meat out for too long because it starts to rot and fester, which she would never touch anyway, but it's gross. And then you're obviously feeding dead bodies, and we have a refrigerator full of dead bodies. So that's just the reality of this type of diet. I wouldn't do anything different because I believe that I'm doing the best thing for her at this point in time with the knowledge that I have. But sometimes it can be a bit of a hassle. That's just my perspective and how I kind of see it. If you want to learn more and get a good solid foundation about ferret diet and have a balanced perspective on what it takes for a ferret to be healthy on different types of diets, then I suggest purchasing the Ferret Diet edition of Duk Duk Ferret magazine, which is out now, and you can purchase it by clicking on the link in the description. In this magazine, we talk to some of the top of the field experts about the different types of diets, the positives and the negatives, and it'll generally give you a really solid foundation of knowledge for ferret diet and what you can do to make your ferrets healthier when it comes to ferret diet. So make sure you grab that. Also, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel and share it far and wide with all other ferret owners so everyone can learn as much as possible. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you later.